So the image we're going to look at here is ninhydrin on currency. And as with a lot of currency, we have multiple layers of background pattern. So we're going to use this to show you using color channel modeling to remove the color information. And then we're using the Fourier transform to remove regular repeating background patterns that you cannot see at the moment. So the first thing we're doing is making sure that our lighting is correct. We have daylight balanced illumination. It's about 5,500 kelvins. And we're making sure that we adjust the polarizing filter. This time, not for the lightest shade of grey, but somewhere in the middle, because we're looking at trying to recover some ridge detail from the centre of the fingerprint here. So if we rotate this again, we don't want it too heavy, just slightly in the middle to recover the information in the darker areas as well as the lighter areas here. So with this set up correctly, let's capture the image. And just as before, the first option is to remove the unwanted colour information. And we'll do that by selecting the colour channel modelling to give us 5 images. So we now have 5 very different images of our fingerprint. And if we zoom in here, you can see all of the images are zooming in together, enabling us to easily see what we're looking at. And we can see some ridge detail here, a little bit here, but most of the information is in the image on the top right. We can see that we now have the core of the fingerprint, we have the ridges, but we also have this regular repeating series of diagonal lines running through the fingerprint. And I'm going to select that image because it contains the largest amount of fingerprint information. Now my regular repeating pattern in my 12-bit image can be easily removed using the Fourier transform. And for that, I'm going to select just the fingerprint, not the whole image. And we're going to generate our Fourier transform. And we're looking at our series of white spots. And we're going to, first of all, show you that the diagonal lines here relate to the spots you can see here in your image. So if we zoom in, we're just going to look at the bottom right-hand corner. And if we select image preview and move the mouse onto the white dots, as I move the mouse onto the dots, we can see that we now have lines directly on top of the lines in our original image. If I move it here, for example, the diagonals are now in the opposite direction, so they're no longer what we're looking for in the image. If we move back, these dots here relate to this diagonal pattern in our fingerprint image. So if we remove the preview and we select a circular area of interest, using what's called a rectangle filter, we're going to remove these unwanted frequencies. So we're going to go through, we're going to move, we're going to apply, apply. And now when I click finish, watch what happens to our image on the left. If we click finish, the lines disappear. And all we now need to do is click invert so the image is around the correct way. We can further adjust that to our personal preference with our histogram. And to give us a comparison, we can open the original image, drop it into grayscale. So you now have your original image on the left-hand side containing almost no information, and our newly enhanced image on the right-hand side. We can even zoom in a little more so we can see the original image here on the left and the newly enhanced image on the right. Okay, the image that we're looking at here, again, we have ninhydrin and it's on currency. We've already captured the image correctly using daylight and the correct adjustment with the polarizing filters. Now this image will require slightly different enhancement processes. So we're going to show you a technique that uses the color models for background subtraction, as well as using Fourier transforms at the end after the color information has been removed to finalize the image enhancement process. So first of all, we have in this image diagonal lines running through the fingerprint, as well as an irregular series of patterns running in the vertical and in different directions through my image. So using a slightly different form of color modeling, this technique is going to give me 6 different color model images. So we have my original image on the front here, and we have a selection of different color models from my image here. And as we look through these, they all look very, very different. But if we look at this one on the bottom here, we can clearly see the ridge flow of the fingerprints, and we can still see the diagonal lines running through the image as well. So we effectively have a negative background and a positive fingerprint. So I'm going to select this image. And the software is giving me, this time, 2 images. It's giving me my original image and the image that I have created, my color model. So the original image is on the left, the color model is on the right, and I'm effectively going to blend the two together so the white areas will subtract from the black areas in the original image. So as we pull the slider bar through, you'll notice that very quickly the diagonal lines will disappear. But the vertical lines are still present in the image, and it's the vertical lines and that irregular pattern that I'm going to remove at this stage. So if we pull a little bit more, we can actually scroll on the mouse here until we see those vertical lines disappear. But as we remove them, we can see that the diagonal lines come back into the image. That doesn't matter, because we know that the Fourier transform is able to remove those diagonal lines. So we can pull that through a little more. So now the vertical pattern, the bridge that was in the background, has all disappeared. We can click Finish, go into our Fourier transform module. We have a series of diagonal lines, which can clearly be seen here in the Fourier transform. If we select these, and click Finish, we now also remove the diagonal lines from the image. So if we want to further enhance it, we can pull up the histogram a little. And then if we reopen, we have the comparison, so we can see the original image with the background and the enhanced image where we've used background subtraction and color modeling combined with Fourier transforms to remove the background pattern and enhance our fingerprint impression.